I've been living with this 85Z now for the last couple of weeks, and I had one on hire last year, or actually it was a demo machine last year. I only had it for a week, and I got to use it a little bit, but sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to really get a feel for a machine, and I never fully got to complete that video. The machine got picked up quite quickly, and I hadn't done the proper film around the outside, but I covered a lot of the basics of this machine in that video to do a bit of sort of overdubbing commentary, and hopefully that was useful for you. So this isn't going to be a video that's repeating any of that really information. I've gone through the specs on it, that kind of thing. This is more how I found the machine to live with for the last couple of weeks, because last time I had it up against a Cat 308, which is a hell of a machine. The next gen Cat 8-tonner. Well, it's just not an 8-tonner. It's like a 9.5 tonner. Absolute monster. And when you compare it to this, it's just it is in a different league. However, that's not to say that this is a bad machine at all, and there is an awful lot to like about the way JCB have gone about this, with a very simple approach really to what a machine should be. I think they've kept it good visibility, it drives well. It's as I said at the time, I think a nice straightforward sort of ground workers machine. You can jump, it's quite good jumping in and out of it all day, nice big door. There's no thrills really in here at all. It doesn't have that. Those shrink bits like the Cat does with the fancy touch screens and all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't need it, because at the end of the day, this is an excavator. It lives out in the mud and the rain. It's going to go on hire fleets, and keeping it simple, keeping it easy to fix they're actually probably more valid points really than having a fancy touch screen in the cab. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks with this machine. I've been doing soakaways basically. This road you can see in front of me, it's got a couple of gullies along it, and they just can't take the capacity of water that we get now in these big storms. So I've put in second load of concrete rings joined up to the first lot, and then a trench all along here, which sort of acts as a drainage field really, to try and extend the area that the water has to percolate away. It's on good chalk here. It just didn't have the capacity to hold the water as it comes off. It drains well, but the volume that we get at once, it just couldn't cope with the deluge. So that's been the job. So as a result, I've done quite a lot of lifting with this machine, concrete rings. I've done some trench work with it, doing some sort of more fine grading, although let's face it, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's basically on the margin of a farmer's field, and it's going to be cultivated, etc. So I don't have to get it to a lawn grade finish, but a bit of grading work nonetheless. And I've got some comments on this machine really, and living with it from the cab, and I'll do a piece from outside the cab as well, on the things that are good and bad externally. But from an operator's point of view, this machine has got excellent visibility. You can see right down onto the edge of the other track when you're obviously the right way around. So really good visibility, nice wide door openings. It's an easy machine to get in and out of. In fact, really, they've done very well, I think, with keeping this lower window. You can sort of see that in the shop right down here. It's completely out of your vision, and it's great. It's absolutely great. Nice big wide open windscreen. It's fantastic for that. This bar is, I mean, I haven't loaded any lorries with it, but I don't think it would be in the way. I think you'd see just over the top of that, see the edge of the, the edge of the loading lip of the lorry. So that's pretty good. There's another comment on that bar I'll come to in a minute, but yeah, the visibility in this machine is very good. You don't hit your head on the mirror when you get in and out. They've actually positioned the mirror in the right place. Finally, someone has worked out how to put the driver's side mirror on a machine. So many clash with the door or you hit your head. This never hit it once. It's positioned where you want to see it. I can see it. It's great. This one here works well. There is a mirror on the back, which is sort of to see over the back of the counterweight. That mirror is fine, apart from where the rear light is positioned. I'll go through in the external video. It's like right in the way of the rear light, so a bit stupid on that point. But on a visibility point of view, it is excellent. I don't think you could ask for better. And arguably, it probably doesn't need mirrors. Good to have, but as far as being able to see, the sort of 1 meter high stick 1 meter away from the machine. Yeah, I think you pretty much get it on all corners. So they've done a great job with that. Driving position is pretty good. There's loads of leg room. The floor is now flat in these Dash 2s. They've got rid of any foot pedals. The tracking levers are, easy enough to use. I do have a comment on them. The pedals are good. The pedals are great. When you're using them with the pedals, it's absolutely brilliant. But when you're not, and I'll use the to-go button here so I can, not operate the machine while I'm doing this. Look how far apart these levers are. I can't remember if I mentioned that in the last video. They are ridiculously far apart. There is no way you would be able to do that with your hands, and you just can't. Look, what is that? It's ridiculous. So they work great with your feet. They're really nice and smooth to use. You've got a good feel with them. There's a nice sort of movement in the pedal that you can get even with your heels like this, and it's not particularly uncomfortable. So that's really good. But yeah, why do they go so far apart, JCB? You must have a bloke at the design studio with monster hands, because that's a long way for tracking levers to work. Otherwise, everything is laid out to hand. There's a right-hand console here with all your buttons on, really straightforward. Radio is behind you, which is a little bit awkward to get to. And it would be lovely to see like a radio mute button or something on the joystick. That's one of my lovely, it's the new love after cup holders is radio mutes on joysticks. It'd be lovely to have that, just so when you want to talk to someone, you can just quickly blip the radio mute and have a conversation. Otherwise, you've got to reach behind you. But everything else is really laid out really well to hand. It's not particularly difficult to use. You don't have to go to any complicated screens to get the heater to work, or turn the fan speed up and down and you accidentally turn the radio to a different channel. None of that stuff like that cat had, that really overcomplicated screen. So that's what I mean. Nice, simple ground workers machine to use. Vents are half decent. Some of them point at the windscreen. It'd be nice to have one on the back here maybe that pointed like at the main screen. There's 3 or 4 down in this sort of bottom corner, but they're all quite low, and I did find it difficult when you're wet getting in and out of the cab, and you shut the door, or even with the door open, it gets a bit condensated in here, and I found it a bit difficult to get the windscreen clear in that instance. But vastly improved from previous models, and you've got quite nice ones behind you as well, which get plenty of air down your neck and cool you down or dry you off, as it's been this week. So yeah, seating position etc. is very good. Can't really complain too much about any of that. The Dozer lever is really nice to hand, but I think I've worked out what I don't like about it now, and it's the stubby levers. I think because it's stubby, it's very difficult to get any sort of fine feel with it. If the lever was a bit longer and had a longer throw, you have a little bit more opportunity to modulate how much the blade's going down, or just feel and tweak it up a little bit. This, a very small movement on this joystick is quite a large movement, because you're you've got such a short little stick that you're moving, if you know what I mean. But it is very well to hand, and you can use the wrist rest still with it, and it's got the quick track on it. It's not bad. I just feel it just wants to be a little bit longer for me. I like the longer levers. That's what works for me. But otherwise, visibility to the blade, I'll turn around so you can see that, is very good. You can see the offside corner outside this window really easily when you're straight. Of course, most of the time, if I'm doing this kind of work, I tend to track like this. It doesn't help you pointing the wrong way the camera, but I can see out diagonally. I do still feel this blade is a strange shape, and I can't quite see the cutting edge. I think I've got used to it, and it's something I can definitely get used to, but because the back of the blade isn't the same level as the front, they've sort of made if you looked at the side of the blade like this, and so you can't see, what you can see at the back of the blade isn't the cutting edge, and I've struggled a little bit to get a feel for where that is. But it's got a nice wide top on it, you know, you're not going to cut your leg open. Decent tie down points, like the way they've curved that in. That all works, all works quite well. The offset, I'll show you the offset on this. It's not the best, if I'm honest. It's probably the best that way, and even that isn't great. It'll dig alongside the track, which would dig alongside a wall or something, but it doesn't go that full 90 degrees that we really like it to do, especially on the left, so you can see out the door and you can really swing that king post round. But I guess there's a compromise in how much it goes left versus how much it goes right. To the right isn't amazing either. Again, it's kind of designed so you can dig in line with your track, but it won't go any further, and I just feel we could have a little bit better offset. Some of the older 8-tonners I've driven have got offsets that, well, they know come around and hit the cab. They're that good. Obviously, you have to be careful when you're operating, but it does get you out of some tricky situations. And this is a machine that's going to want to be working on housing sites, tighter spaces. You're buying the zero tail swing model, which is the 85Z. It's a machine that's working in tight areas, and being able to swing that boom around, even if it does risk a bit of conflict with the machine itself, I think there's more advantages there than there are disadvantages, really. If you're an operator and you can't tell that the bucket's going to hit the cab, then you're not really the best operator, are you? So I'd rather have that advantage for me, and risk the downsides of potential damage. Even if it had to go to a second stage or something, where you had to acknowledge that you were then getting into an area that would conflict the cab, that wouldn't be too difficult to achieve these days with modern electrics. Something like that, I think, for me would work well. It's all on rollers as well, which is nice, so you can offset your boom on a roller on the back of this joystick on the right, and your auxiliary is on this roller on the left. And obviously I haven't had anything plugged into it, I haven't been able to play with that, but I'm confident that'll be quite nice and easy to use. And again, nice to get pedals off the floor, I think. Having said that, you've taken the pedals away, it's great, we've got a flat floor, but I actually would like a little stubby block or something just to rest my feet on. For me, I quite like to sort of sit, and you can, especially when you're on hills, you can anchor yourself into the chair a bit. That is quite nice. Obviously with the flat floor you haven't got that, but it wouldn't be impossible, it'd be really easy actually to add that yourself if you wanted to. And if I owned this machine, I would find something to screw down to the floor so I could anchor my feet down. Because ironically, without the pedals, which is nice, you lose a bit of footholding. So that's just how I've found it personally. Otherwise, from inside the cab and how it drives, I'll come on really to how it drives, because that's the main thing, isn't it? Really, it's a digger. It's nice to talk about things in the cab. Things should be improving for operator comfort, but this machine has to go out and earn your money, doesn't it? Now, I found it very good on diesel. Compared to other 8-tonners I've used, it's done a variety of work for me. Again, some of which has been lifting, you know, some of which has been heavy digging in quite hard clay and chalk. So a good variety of work, and I've put in, I think, 30 litres on the worst day, really. I think the rest of the time I've been doing what I would say a day's work. Now, of course, I'm out the cab laying pipe and doing all kinds of other things, but it's done, I got it with 70 hours on 2 weeks ago. It's done 125 hours now, and I've probably put, maybe 100. If I've done 120 litres of fuel, I'd be surprised. I think I've put 100-ish litres in, maybe even a little bit less than that. So I don't think that's bad at all for the hours. Of course, it does depend on the kind of work you're doing. I appreciate that, but compared to other 8-tonners, I think it's been very good on diesel, and I think partly the reason for that is because you can run it in a lower rev speed. Really, you don't actually need to be running this machine flat out. I found G2 to be my sort of favourite setting for a lot of this sort of work, trimming, you know, plenty of power when lifting, even when you knock it back to some of the L modes, which are like its sort of very low, you know, sort of low revving options. It's got the power there, and it's quite nice and controllable to, you know, lifting concrete rings in and things. It's quite nice. When you put it into H+, which is its like flat out setting, this thing becomes a little rocket ship, and if anything, it becomes a little bit jerky, but you can shift some gear. It becomes basically like a mini digger. You know, it goes as fast as a little mini digger, really, on steroids. But of course, it's a much bigger machine, and that is something in cycle times where, you know, it did run rings around that cat that I had. The cat drove much more like a 13-tonner, in that it was sort of slow and deliberate and really powerful, lovely machine. But this thing was more akin to a mini digger in the way that it drove, and I really like that about it. It's got good flickability. You know, you can bring a bit of gear towards you and then flick it out. It's quite light, it's nice to use on the levers. The levers have got a really good feel to them, actually. They're not too light. Some people are going a bit too light on levers. These have got kind of deliberate weight to them, but they're yeah, really nice to use, and I've got the hang of using this bulbous bit on the top. I quite like getting on top of that, a bit like the old Hitachi levers where they were really long. I quite like those as well. You know, you could just use your fingertips to bring it in. Hydraulics are really well matched. You know, the boom and the dipper speed are very good. Seem to complement each other well. The bucket rotation is also excellent. I think that's a 3CX thing, isn't it? You know, you get really good flat bucket ability on this, and pretty decent retention as well. While I'm on the 3CX thing, this grader lets this machine down big time, and yeah, if there's one comment I can say, if you ever send out these machines for demo, JCB, then do not send it out with this 3CX grader. This is a ditching bucket. It's bloody brilliant for ditching because it's very short, stubby. It's got the holes in it for drainage, and it'll rotate very nice and tightly, which was what it was designed for back on the old 3Cs when it was released. But as a bucket on a modern 8-ton machine, this hugely undersells what this machine can do. The digging buckets aren't so bad, but the digging buckets are okay, really. They're fine, nice shape. Always like 3CX buckets. You know, they've always been pretty well designed. But this grader does not showcase what this machine can do. You could run up a bit of concrete here, and you can pull out. You can run a much bigger bucket on this grading wise, and feel like you're getting a lot more work done. Yeah, this grader is not showcasing this machine's stability at all, but it's the only bucket it came with, what it hired with, and what it was sold with. So personally, I wouldn't sell them with these. I certainly wouldn't send them out for demos with them like my other one had. It's just not a good bucket for this machine, and showcase what it can handle. Because stability-wise, it's very, very good. Now, I think, you know, I've lifted manhole rings. What are they? Nearly a ton over the side, full reach, not a problem. And you can even be stupid and jagged it about and things, and it won't unsettle it. Very, very good for stability. But this leads me on to one of my other real criticisms of this machine, is the working envelope is not great. So the dipper, it goes out, I mean, it's nearly flat, look, with the arm, and you think, well, that's really good, but I don't know why it just doesn't go that far for me. And when you start here and then you start coming in, and the bucket stops way earlier than you'd want it to. This wants to come another foot forward for me. Look how far away the bucket is from the ram, you know, even with a digging bucket on. It's miles away with the teeth, and I kind of get the idea that you can't rip the check valve off then, can you? I kind of understand again for sort of damages, but once again my point stands that if you're an operator who can't, you know, work out when your bucket's going to clash with your machine, then for me that's an operating issue. It's a shame that it restricts the rest of us from having a machine with a little bit more working area. And I just feel that to gain stability and to avoid what must be conflicts, I guess, with the boom, etc., what they've done is they've put a smaller arm on this machine, and that has had a massive impact negatively on its working area, which is a shame, because, as I say, the hydraulics are well matched. It drives very well. I just don't feel I've quite got the working area that I would want from an 8-ton machine, and you know, ultimately that would actually stop me buying this particular model. Really, that is actually one of the only things that stops me buying this machine. You know, small things like footrests, a couple of adjustments here and there, I can do all that, I can live with that. I'm pretty picky as a machine guy, and I like things to be how I like them. I like a lot of things about this, but the working envelope is just not enough for me for an 8-ton machine, and it is my biggest gripe with it, which is a shame, because in other ways it's been really well thought out. So that's probably my summary really on driving. And maybe the 86C, I haven't looked at the specs, but maybe that's got a bigger boom on it and would have a little bit more working radius, because, you know, essentially it's a very similar machine otherwise, and you'll see in my external video, you know, the bits that I like and don't like out there. But yeah, working radius is the biggest drawback on this, and it makes it feel more akin to a big 6-ton machine, personally, than it does an 8-ton class. I think if you put this up against a lot of other 8-tonners, particularly ones with conventional tails, but even some of the zeros, I mean, maybe the specs say otherwise, but I just feel this doesn't have the working envelope that I'd like, and yeah, that's really it. But having said that, if you need a machine that you're in tight spaces a lot, you know, maybe you're working in roadways or you're on housing sites, you're up between plots, you're trying to do, you know, topsoil in gardens, all that kind of work, you know, bit of finishings, then this machine is going to be great. You know, what's a disadvantage for me and what I don't like, because I think, well, I've got that 8026, it's so performant for me, it does such a good job, I need a machine that's heads and tails above it, and this just isn't quite for the money you have to spend to buy one. Last reportedly around the 60 grand mark, but that was a price from last year, so could even be a bit more than that now. So for that money, for me it's not enough. It's not enough of a gain, and it's mainly reach that does it. So that's my thoughts on the inside. I'll talk you through what I like and what I don't like on the outside. Just before we have a look around the outside, a couple of points I forgot to mention. Got a nice, it's quite a nice sun visor here, which of course when the windscreen is up, you can tuck this down here and get a bit of shade from what is an extensive bit of perspex up here, which is, you know, nice actually. I like that. Nice and airy. You can see through it. You've got really good visibility to the top of the boom, as you can see here, so sort of at my eye height. So I like all of that. It's great. Good feature this. Nice, yeah, nice little bit of thinking there. You can even tuck it up if you've got it down, the windscreen down, and you don't want to get that there, you can tuck it up here. So I like all of that. That's a nice little nifty feature. However, on the subject of the windscreen, why does the wiper not park straight? It wipes straight, it comes to here with the wipe, but when it parks at this jaunty angle. Not really sure what that's about. And if I'm honest, why is it on this side? Because if it was over here, I've already not got visibility with the boom here anyway, so it wouldn't really be offending me. The only thing I can think is that you've tried to improve the sweep here and get some better visibility, because if it was sweeping this way, I might end up with the corner of the window sort of not covered, and I kind of understand that. But if it's going to be on this side, can we get it so it parks straight, please? Because that just that annoys me. I would have to do something with that. Yeah, that literally, I haven't moved that. That's just where it parks. Otherwise, the wiper is good. You've got some, you know, delay options. You can set in the screen. But yeah, I couldn't live with that like that. That would really annoy me. So I'll just run you through the screen as well. This is how it sort of sits. This is vastly improved on the Dash 2s from the Dash 1s. You've now got this sort of larger colour screen. But really, there's not, apart from this bigger screen, it doesn't integrate a rear camera, which is a shame. It'd be nice if it could do that. And it doesn't really give me much more than, you know, my temperatures essentially on a much larger screen. You've got this control knob here, which you can use to navigate your way around the screen, and a few buttons. This is all really straightforward to use actually. So using this, I can bring the menu up, and then we've got information, which shows, yeah, pressure information about your hydraulics. Obviously it's all 0 at the moment, it's not on. Tells you about the machine, yeah, kind of voltages, etc. You get fuel information, where it basically tells you how much fuel you're currently using at the moment, and where your fuel level is, which is not bad information. It'd be nice to have some tallies actually to see, you know, kind of hours run or something. You know, like you get kind of how much fuel you've used today or something. That'd be nice, but it's, you know, it's all useful information. Temperature is obvious, hydraulic and water. It gives you it in degrees instead of on the you know, just a line. And then you've got your auxiliary, which, yeah, shows how I guess how much flow is going through those or being used at a time. Now, back out of that, you can then go into machine settings. This is really where it starts to get a bit more interesting. Auto idle, you can set that depending on how long you want it to, you know, run for before it then goes to auto idle. What you can't do though, and what's annoyed me a bit about this machine, is the auto idle doesn't seem to be a standard sort of setting. You have to press the button for it every time you start the machine, and I find that a bit frustrating. It'd be nice if in the screen somewhere I can set that, you know, I want the auto idle on as standard when I start the machine, because, well, why wouldn't you want it? It's good for fuel saving and things. You've got your auto stop, which you can disable, and I understand that's automatically on when you start, fair enough. But you can set that as well for different, you know, lengths of time, up to 30 minutes it'll run for before it stops. Useful thing. Follow me home lights. I've used these a lot this week, been doing quite a lot of overtime, and it's been dark when I've been leaving, so it's really nice actually to have these on for a while. May even set that to a minute. That is useful. You can set your intermittent wiper speed, which is brilliant really. That's absolutely great. Love an intermittent wiper on a machine. It's nice to finally see it. You know, and this is becoming more common across different manufacturers, so that is good to see. Auxiliary latch, so you can set that, so if you were running a flail for example, you could latch it on, so every time you press the button it just stays on. You don't have to hold the roller or anything. Great setting, really good, as I say, for flails and things that require constant flow. And then you've got your attachment settings, so you can basically program in maybe a tilt bucket or something, and you can set this, you know, in fact, look, there you go, tilt bucket, you get whacker plates, thumbs, grabs, tilt rotators, look, I'll tell you, they're coming in, look. And you can basically have it so, you know, it kind of, yeah, depends what you want, what you've got, but yeah, you can have the auxiliary mode, so I don't know what all this does really, but to be honest, but you can set it up for your different attachments, which I think is pretty cool. So nice to see that as well. Display settings aren't very useful really. It's simple things of brightness, time, date, all of that sort of thing. Diagnostics is useless for us. It's more for the fitter really, and maybe it would give you a code if there was a code showing, but yeah, not really a lot of information in there on a brand new machine, of course. Shouldn't be any. And service, it tells you how long it's got till the next service, which is not bad information to know. So that's really the screen. It's pretty basic, as I say. It'd be nice to have a bit more integration with well, just things like really a reversing camera would be nice, but otherwise it shows everything you need on there, and yeah, don't need to know too much else. Well, my comments on the outside of this machine really are fairly limited. I did a lot of you know, the longer review in my other video, but from living with it, this lip up here, this is the problem. It just comes off the roof and just drips straight in the cab, which is just a shame. You know, I think there could be more wipeable area as well. I think we could have a longer wiper. You can kind of see where it's sort of missing. I think you could probably have a wiper a couple of inches longer. You'd get a little bit more clear vision on the window, which would be welcome, and probably a mod that I would do. Greasing points are a bit odd on this machine. They're not all in the same place. You've got a little grouping of them here. It's fair enough for the bits that are covered by the machine, but like, I don't know why we've gone away from pin end greasing. There's one pin end here, but then on various others, this one here is fed remotely from on the back here, but this one up here is quite awkward to get to. You've got pin end on the main kind of boom pivot, and just generally there's a couple on the end there, but then some of them aren't, and I just find them a bit awkward to get to, especially round in you know, the bucket where the quick hitch joins the end of the dipper, and think that could, well, I don't know, I don't know why we've gone away from the pin end greasing. I thought that was a really good system on this machine, but it's, I mean, you can live with it. You know, you learn the position to get it in eventually, but a bit awkward. As you can see, I'm just going to put some diesel in it this morning. Great service access. I still think the service access is on the whole very good, especially for a zero tail machine. Gets the battery nice and easily. Fuel tank is brilliant. Look, it's pretty much ground level, you can fill it up, and I really like this secondary gauge as well, so you can tell what it's got in it. That's a really welcome addition, to be honest. Nice wide mouth for the diesel filler. Can't complain at all. Going around the back, I mean, obviously it's a bit tighter around here, you know, it's a zero tail machine, isn't it? But I don't think it's horrendous, you know, that there isn't much you couldn't get to in here. My only real comment is the rads. I don't think you could very easily get to the rads or pull them apart to clean them out or anything. I think that would probably, looking at this here, would end up being a counterweight off job, which I just think, you know, to be able to clean rads out is essential, especially when, I mean, you can see the gaps here we're talking. There's not very much. It doesn't take much to get a load of dust and crap built up in there. I just think, almost, I think, you know, people think like checking the oil and things is daily checks. Well, it is certainly, but you know, this I think's a sort of, you know, every sort of 6 months. You know, I'd be blowing my rads out on general conditions. If it was very dusty, might be every day or couple of days, and you just can't. Yeah, you just can't with this, which I don't know. I don't know how you would improve it, but it's something I would like to see, some way of being able to split these apart a bit so you can get an airline in there and just blow yeah, just blow the stuff off between the radiators, really. Otherwise, undercarriage is all pretty good. It keeps itself relatively clear of mud. Happy enough with that. And getting in the door, you know, nice big handles. As I say, that the mirror doesn't clash. All of that's good. I really like this detail down here. I mean, we've talked about a few things on this machine, you know, like the window, the rain dropping in the front window, as a sort of poor design detail. But I think that is pretty cool. And they've even used the like the little sort of, as it fades out into the glass bit, as dirt in the bucket. Not seen that before. Don't think it existed on the Dash 1s. Yeah, neat little detail on the window there. I think that's not particularly useful. I'd rather have rads that you can clean out, as I say, but you know, someone's thought about that, and if they're thinking about that, maybe I'll take on board some of these other bits. Final one is on the back, really. This rear light, it's a great idea, love it, but it hits the mirror, and, or it didn't hit the mirror completely obstructs the rear light. I've got it angled slightly pointing down because obviously I want it at the floor, but I just like, how can anyone design that? What happened there, you know? Why have we got so much in one place? It doesn't make much sense to me. I don't know, that would have to move for me. I'd have to move either the mirror or probably the light, to be honest, is the easier thing to move. It just needs to either be mounted on the bracket, on top of the bracket of the actual mirror itself, or the mirror needs to be bent, cranked round slightly, or I don't know, something. But that's like, I've gone to the effort of putting the rear light on, and it's great that it's switchable separately from inside the cab, but what's happened there? How did somebody fit those two things and go, yeah, that's great? Don't know, small things, but these are all things, to be honest, that you could modify yourself on this machine. Pin end greasing you're not going to, but as I say, you'd learn where your grease points are. And I could definitely live with this machine, and I think, you know, overall that's where it's at with this. I found it a very easy machine to live with, and one I feel I could probably maintain well. For me, the 85Z I don't think's quite the right machine for the kind of work I do. The 86C has got a much bigger boom length on it, so the actual, you know, sort of first section of the boom is much bigger, because it has a conventional tail, you know, on the back of it. So for me, that's more of the machine for me. And in fact, let's be realistic, I'd probably go with the tab option, which would give me nigh on 13 tonne of reach on a sort of 9 tonne machine, really. So that would be my personal choice of where I would go. But I think this machine is actually really well suited to housing sites where things are a bit tighter. You don't have to worry about the rear end, which is good. It's got plenty of power to do things. It just doesn't have quite the reach, but you know, that's an advantage as well in a way when you're working in tight spaces. So for me, that's where I think we're at. It's not an 85Z for me, probably be an 86C, but certainly a machine I could live with overall. And I think JCB have vastly improved it over the old 8080 and 8085 models, vastly improved. So I guess good work there. Other machines in this sector to consider, a lot of people go with the Kubota. Personally, for me, that's not a good 8 tonne machine. Kubota makes some great models, but their 8-tonner is not a good example of one. Of course, there's the Cat. I mean, fantastic machine, but I'm not sure I'd want to own it for various reasons. But probably one of the best 8-ton machines I've driven. Yeah, fantastic thing. Just yeah, the Cat's very good. The Hitachi 8-tonner, I don't personally like myself. I think the cab is horrendous. The digging end isn't great. Again, not a good machine really for Hitachi, the 8-tonner. I haven't driven the Wackernoosens, the ET90. You know, that's another competitor really. Wackernoosens are making some great inroads with their excavators. They've really kind of stepped the game up the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and I'd like to try one. They look good. The specs you can buy them in are really good, and yeah, you know, be interesting to know what price they are and what they're like to drive. One day I'm sure I'll get the opportunity. Otherwise, a lot of people going Kobelco. Now we've got an old New Holland Kobelco on the farm from 2004, I think that machine is, 2005. Not a bad machine for its age. It's not bad, but things could definitely be improved, and I'm sure they have done better. However, it's got a monster arm on it, so if you're, you know, in that kind of market, the Kobelcos seem to be backed up by Molson. They seem a decent enough machine. Anyway, that's about it from me. Yeah, 85Z hasn't been a bad digger for me. 85Z? It is the 85Z. I'm forgetting my model numbers now. Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed this sort of review of how I found it to live with the last couple of weeks. As I say, not a proper review. Did that kind of before when I had one on demo the first time. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got from me. I've got to get to work. Cheers, guys.